played all season long. They're not a team that's shot the ball well. They've struggled to shoot it even more than Indiana has. And boy, they came out on fire today. And Indiana took it. The first half, some guys stepped up and made some incredible plays. Like I'll tell you, I don't know how to express this, but I hate losing. Like I hate losing. I mean, my face is red because my blood pressure's up, not because I got a suntan. But if you can ever gain something from a loss, and I don't mean moral victories and things like that. I mean guys stepped up and made plays today in the heat of the battle, playing against a team that at one point in time was ranked in the top 5 and played their best game of the year. And we had guys come in off the bench. We had guys that started. We had guys come in and do things that we've expected them to do all year long, and we've not seen it very often. And so I can't believe I'm even saying this, but I feel better coming off of this game, even though they lost, than a lot of the games we've come out of with a victory. And I'm not being a fanboy. I'm not trying to just look at the positives. There's a lot of things they could have cleaned up. There's a lot of the turnovers at the end. They're going to watch that and cringe. I mean, just you got to be able to finish a game. Look, I heard them talking on CBS earlier today about what is it about finishing a game. And there's an art to finishing a game. And Indiana, quite frankly, has not been through that. They've not been through this. That ball should have never been in Jerome Hunter's hands. As well as Jerome played in the whole game, at the end of the game and that last turnover where they ended up making the 3, that ball should have never been in Jerome's hands. So I'm not trying to go negative on it. I'm just saying they'll learn from that. They'll learn how to finish a game. It's just unfortunate because they did so many good things.
And we've talked a lot about basketball intelligence, and I don't want to get on.
Yeah. I'm not going to get crazy and harp on it.
There is when you come down to certain situations, guys need to know their roles, their position, and other guys need to know other guys' roles and position. Who should have the ball in their hands? Don't get it to them.
Sure.
Don't do certain things. That's something they have to learn.
Yeah, I mean that's a situation. Al, Rob, Devontae, those guys at the end of a game, I mean, they got to look at that and be like, hey, nobody else is touching it except for us. Until we throw it inside, we're hanging on to it. And you had to know the pressure was coming from Maryland. I mean, they didn't have a choice. They had to come in pressure. The only way they could have come back in this game is exactly how they did. And getting a turnover, making a big shot, and getting Indiana to make some silly mistakes.
An absolute
they did.
Heartbreaker for the Hoosiers.
Yep.
Like I said, Maryland came out on fire. My God. If I'd have told you, and I think I put a post, I tweeted something. If I'd have told you Indiana was shooting over 50% from the field, 70% from three-point land, and losing by 12, well, that just sound crazy? Because that's what the situation was in the first half.
Yeah.
It was nuts, but they took a punch. They took several punches in the mouth, and they came back. I was very, very impressed by them coming back and doing what they did. And then taking the game over.
Yeah,
they came out,
have it in control.
They ended the half on a really nice run. They started the half on a nice run.
Yep.
And it really got them back in that game, and it gave them the opportunity to take control of the game. And they did for a while.
Oh, it was, believe me, it was their game to lose. I mean, you go back and watch the last 6 minutes of that game, and it all goes back to a possession with about 5 minutes to go, or maybe even less than that, maybe 3 minutes to go, I'm not sure. But it's a possession Indiana had. They got a rebound. They pushed it down the court really quick, and I believe Al shot a three-pointer within the first 8 seconds of the shot clock. And Indiana had, I'm going to say, between a 5 and a 7-point lead, somewhere around there. That's the beginning of the mental mistakes. That was the beginning of they haven't been in this particular position before, because that's one where that ball never gets pushed up the floor. You walk it up the court, and you use the whole 30 seconds no matter what. And after that shot, immediately Maryland came down and scored, and that was kind of the beginning of, a few things at the end that they would really love to do over. There's no question about it. But I'm going to tell you, I mean, we always know what Archie's going to say, or most of the time we're pretty close to knowing what he's going to say. And he's going to say, look, we've got to learn how to finish games. We've got to learn how to, when you've got that ball at the end of a game. Archie's a point guard. I was a point guard. This is going to hurt Archie way more than all the fan base. Trust me, he's a point guard. He knows. You stand there with that ball in your hand and you let him come foul you. And we know how to finish those games, and he's got to translate that over and get these guys. They'll learn from this. They will. Indiana guards, Indiana players will learn from this, and still with all of that, they still had an unbelievable chance to win it.
And I've been holding off a little bit on this part. There's been so many reports coming in. We've been trying to wait to get some confirmation. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's true.
It's apparent that and crazy as I'm about to say this, Kobe Bryant has died in a helicopter crash in California. I think that has been confirmed. I certainly hope so, because I do not want to be someone who is propagating.
Well, as soon as ESPN sent it out, then you could pretty much say it's probably accurate.
Kobe Bryant has perished in a
terribly tragic
accident. So our thoughts, condolences are out to him, his family, and the entire LA Lakers families. I'm sure they're going to be dealing with a lot over the next few days. You know what it does, Jim? It puts a lot of things in perspective. I mean, we're sitting here talking about all the plays that could have gone different. And the world lost a good person. I mean, this is a guy who's done a lot of good things, and we're still doing good things.
And sure, and it, probably just started He had spent his whole life, developing who he was, and then was probably, this is bad for everyone else because all the good things that were going to happen from Kobe Bryant and his whole foundation and everything, we're going to be positive for the world in general.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We're coming to you live from Yogi's, of course. This is after the game with Todd, Leary. Indiana loses an absolute heartbreaker today at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, 77-76 to the Maryland Terrapins. And my, oh my, how about Indiana shooting, though? We talked about Maryland, how on fire they were. Indiana was kind of going, I don't want to say toe-to-toe, but they were pretty close.
Yeah. Indiana just started a few possessions later.
Yeah.
They started going toe-for-toe,
exactly.
Back and forth. Maryland just knocked so many down in a row. They were off to such a great start. It was just crazy. But so many different guys. That's kind of, you saw Armand Franklin come in the game, who has zero confidence. He hasn't shot the ball well since the Notre Dame game. He comes in, knocks a three down right away, drives in the lane, hits a little runner in the lane. I mean, good things were happening from a bunch of different guys. Jerome Hunter stepping out, making three-pointers. Really, where did Indiana struggle from in the first half? How many layups did they miss? Brunk missed a couple layups. Justin Smith missed a couple layups.
They were hitting better from the three-point line than from within 5 feet in the first half.
We don't say that very often.
Never we say that. Here's a couple things this first half that stood out. They shot 5 free throws the entire first half. As a matter of fact, I don't know how deep it was, Jimmy Sutton, our intern with us. I know it. I looked at 8 minutes to go, and they were still had only shot 4 or 5 free throws.
They shot 10 for the game.
So 5 leads half. Crazy number for them.
Insane.
Also, 2 offensive rebounds in that first half. They kept them off the board, the bread and butter of this Indiana team. Free throws and offensive rebounds, and they don't do that very well in the first half at all. But they're able to get back into this game in the second half on the backs of shooting. But they also got the ball in the paint, and they started getting some shots there. Trace Jackson hit one. Joey Brunk hit one. I think Justin Smith got one. They got some inside action, but they were not getting in the first half. And it really add that to the shooting, and it really propelled them that second half.
No doubt. And it propelled them. In the first half, not only did they start getting it inside, but they were making good decisions. They were kicking it out when they should have kicked it out. They were, they were making moves and making the defenders come and double team them, and they were still scoring. Just missing a few, point-blank easy shots, just like the one Trace Jackson-Davis missed at the end of the game. I mean, that's a point-blank shot that's his bread and butter. You give that shot, 99 times out of 100, you would think Trace Jackson-Davis is going to make that. But overall, you look at the start they got off to, and to even have a chance in this game, like I'm telling you, I'm going to be Johnny Positive on this one, and it's not just because I feel like I was Debbie Downer after the last game. I feel way better about this Indiana team. I think guys today, confidence went way up. I think Devontae felt his role a little bit. I think he got a little bit back more into Devontae. And he looked like Devontae, not just making the shots. I mean, Devontae Green ends with 16 points on 10 shots. I mean, we don't get to say that very often. And just overall, so many. This is a game, this truly is one of those games that you can look back on and say this propelled us to go to 11 or 12 game win streak. If they could have won this game, I mean, it's that big. But now, if you're gonna take a loss and you're gonna go on the road, I mean, this is the kind of loss I guess you would want it to be after, because they've got to have a ton of confidence heading into Penn State to play this game this week. And I don't know. I mean, I have never ever in my life been a moral victory kind of person, but I honestly feel better after this game than I did after a lot of the wins that they've had.
Hey, if you're looking for a place in the Bloomington area, make sure you look up my friend Henry Nethery from Remax. He's a big supporter of Indiana sports, being after the game with Todd, Leary, and we're a big supporter of him. I don't know if Henry's here today. He's usually here with us, but make sure you check out Henry Nethery with Remax Realtor. Now you mentioned going on the road, they have to take. It's a lot of times it's a bitter pill. This is a bitter pill to swallow. A home game, number one, you lose at home. That's not good ever in the Big Ten. Secondly, it's a game that you could have won. It was a tough game, no doubt, but one that they had, and you can almost say they let it slip away.
They did.
But now they've got to go on the road, and not to easy places either. These are going to be two more games that are very, very tough situations.
Yeah, you got a Penn State team that's just downright good. They've got veteran players. They've got big players. They've got guards. They make shots. It will be an extremely. It's not your, like you were saying it about Rutgers before. This is not your grandpa's Penn State team either. This team is very, very good. And then you're going to go play an Ohio State team that's just mad. I mean, they've been getting their butt pounded, and they're just going to be mad. So you got two extremely difficult games coming up.
You talked about Devontae. Aaron says Devontae did have a good stretch in the middle of the game, but you can't have him in to finish games. He makes too many bad decisions. Do you want him in there at the end, or you want Al Durham and Rob Finnessy?
No, I want Devontae in there at the end. I mean, when you got to have your free throw shooters, I mean, he shot 4 for 4 from the free throw line in the game. You need him in there. Hunter might be the one I question at the end of the game.
I don't know why he's in there.
I don't either.
I have no idea.
He's not a solid ball handler. He didn't look comfortable. He got up in the air and threw a pass that got stolen and resulted in a three-pointer immediately for Maryland. So, no, I'm not going to step up and say we got to give credit to Maryland for making those plays at the end. No, they should have never had that ball in their hands to be in that situation. If Indiana doesn't turn it over and they make those plays, yes, I would be in that position. But and look, you know what, everybody, hey, don't be mad at Jalen. Jalen Smith's a good kid. He's a good player. He had a great game. He was trash talking the crowd because, believe me, I sat right down there on the floor, and he was getting an earful the whole game. He's a kid. Let it go. He didn't do anything that's that outrageous.
Hey, if people are gonna give it, and the Indiana crew, kids, the students, they give it. They gotta be able to take it back.
That's the thing. Hey, if you're gonna talk trash, you gotta be able to take some of it back. And Indiana fans were talking some trash. Players were talking some trash. Todd was talking some trash. I mean, I was in the ear of those officials down there. And
Todd who? Todd Leary?
Frankly, was
Todd Leary talking trash?
Borderline asked to leave. Hence why I came over here at halftime. But I kind of removed myself from the situation. I mean, I was heated and frustrated with the way that game started, and it wasn't the officials' fault. I just happened to be taking it out.
Linda says IU is so really improved. I think that's something that cannot be lost. Good point, Linda. It cannot be lost in this. It is a loss. It's losing at home just sucks. There is no other way about it, and there's no way to hide it. So, but this is a greatly improved team. This team, 3 weeks ago, they would have gotten their ass kicked in this game. When Maryland came out and shot like that, they would have folded like a cheap tent, and it would have been over. But man, did they fight. The fight that they had, got to be impressed with it.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, this Indiana team, a month ago would have taken that smack in the mouth at the beginning of the game and been like, oh, we're unlucky. We caught Maryland on the wrong day. But they didn't. I mean, like I said, they had guys coming off the bench. Jerome Hunter was a huge part of that. Devontae played more like Devontae. Joey Brunk and Trace Jackson-Davis were still solid in the middle. Deron Davis came in and gave him some really good minutes. Played 13 minutes and 2 for 2 from the field and made a couple of great passes. I know he kicked one out for a three-pointer to Jerome Hunter. So just all kinds of good things happened in this game. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I believe it was after the either Nebraska or Northwestern game. And what a difference just a point here and there can make. And we feel like we've got a pit in our stomach after losing by 1 And if we won by 1, we would be acting like...
Well, it's not just losing by 1, too. You had that game right up until the bitter closing seconds. It was right there in the hand.
You know what? What can you learn out of something like this? Is how important every possession is, how important all those free throws are, how important taking care of the basketball is, every little decision that you make. I mean, look, losing this game by 1, you can go back in the last 8 minutes alone. You can go back and look at possession by possession and be like, oh my gosh, if we had just done this different. If we had just done this. And that's going to, like, I am a sick nerd. And, you know, I like to watch these things over and over again. It's like a horror movie for me. Like, I just watch it over and over again. I'm like, oh, my gosh, why did we do that? Even though I know we did it. You know, it will come out, and it's like, I'm as positive as I can be because I feel good about the way they played.
You know the total turnovers in this game? Total, both teams. It's crazy. 11.
I know Indiana they both had 3 at halftime, I'm pretty sure.
Now, the reason for that is because everybody was shooting 90%.
Right.
The shots were all going in. So there weren't many opportunities for turnovers.
Yeah.
Indiana ended up out-rebounding Maryland for the game, too, again.
A real glaring stat that I don't even know. Let me look at what it is. Offensive rebounds. So Maryland only had 10 offensive rebounds, but they scored 9 points off of those 10. And I feel like in my mind, I feel like I remember all 10 of them because I felt like there was a whole bunch more than that.
Indiana had 11 second chance points.
Yeah, the ones that it seemed like.
Here's a number for you. Bench points.
Were huge.
Look at the bench points. 37-12, Indiana.
Yeah, you got Devontae and Jerome Hunter and all that involved in that. So that's going to be, honestly, that's
if you can get that kind of production on any kind of consistent basis, you're going to win some games. You're going to win some games on the road at some point. If you're getting this kind of production. Now, they're not going to keep this shooting up. They're not going to be shooting 47% from 3.
But look at it overall. You had Maryland shoot 41% from 3
Crazy.
overall. Okay, but look at what that is. In the second half,
they didn't shoot very well at all.
3 for 12 in the second half.
Bad.
So look at what that was to start with. It's the timing of when those shots went down. The percentages kind of evened itself out after a while. But at the beginning, when you're getting punched, like every one, they shots seemed to go in. And, you know, we were sitting there in the crowd. You know what it sounded like. It did not matter who shot it. As soon as it went up in the air, the whole crowd was like, because we just knew it was going in. And that's the feeling that you kind of had. And still to be able to come out in the second half and score 7 straight points and get a timeout called immediately by Maryland, that's how you come out and take the game right back from you. I mean, there's just so many great opportunities. Did you see that onesie walking here?
I did not.
Is that Rain Shaddy?
I did not see that.
A onesie, literally just walked in a onesie.
Hi, Tara. How are you? Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. Cherise, we appreciate you joining us as well. Bill says, Jerome Hunter coming along. I think he can become a reliable scorer, starting to get his confidence up and learning his role. I'm not sure what that is yet still, though. I don't know that he's learning his role. If he's hitting shots, great. That would be wonderful. But it would be nice to see him be a slasher, slasher, because otherwise they're not going to respect you.
Here's the deal. Okay, so for Jerome Hunter, we need Jerome Hunter to make those shots. We do. Okay, but he took 7 shots in this game without looking. How many of them were 3-pointers, do you think?
7?
6. The 6 of his 7 shots are 3-pointers. Now, we need him to be a 3-point shooter.
And 2 of those were very early in the shot clock.
I need him to do something. I need him to slash. When he was the most effective with Indiana, he was getting buckets inside the lane, little runners. He has such a good touch. Use that 6'8" or 9" height. Use your long arms. Get in the lane and use your touch that's in there. He's a good scorer in the lane. So, you know, again, I'm jumping on the negative. Like he played good. This is the best game we've seen out of Jerome Hunter. So I'm not trying to get on the negative side. It's just other things that they can learn. But 27 minutes for Jerome today, it's a lot of minutes.
That's probably a career high. It's got to be close to a career high.
I would guess so.
Glenn says Indiana plays to the other team's potential.
Yeah, I mean, people say that a lot. And that's kind of, okay, so here's what we say all the time. Look at the Big Ten. There's a lot of really good teams. So, I mean, you play to the potential of a lot of really good teams. I'm not disagreeing with the comment. I kind of get it. It kind of seems to be that way, but every team in the Big Ten is pretty good, so.
What do you think? Eric's asking this question. It's a good question. Do you think they had a separate option, or was Trace the guy? I think Trace is the guy you want taking that shot. But
I don't necessarily know that that's the play that they drew up. They didn't look super confident that was the play they drew up, but they got Trace Jackson Davis shooting a 4-foot shot.
He backs his guy
going
down
to his left hand, and he's left-handed. There isn't a shot I would much more rather them have that other than a dunk.
And there's also an option of possibly getting fouled in a situation like that.
I mean, you give Maryland a little bit of credit in that circumstance, because if I were them, I sure would have been challenging it. I probably would have tried to foul him.
I've had several people asking this question, Lisa, one of those. What was Archie thinking about keeping Brunk on the bench at the end? Would you prefer he was on the floor?
Not a good free throw shooter. The game, we were trying to keep him off the three-point line, and that's not Joey's strength.
Yeah, he got bit early today.
In the first half, Jalen Smith was making those three-pointers. To start the game, I'll tell you, here's where I was surprised. Jalen Smith hurt Indiana with 2 3-pointers at Maryland in the first 5 minutes of the game. He hurt Indiana with 2 3-pointers in the first 5 minutes of this game. So the same result. We didn't do anything any different. There was no surprise. I'm sure when he looked across from him and saw Joey Brunk was guarding him again, backed himself straight up to the three-point line, and the first couple buckets at Indiana.
And you talked about the scenario it's going to play out. Not just this game, other games coming up when they have a long, tall guy that can shoot from the outside. Who's going to step out and beyond that and defend that? Because Joey Brunk did not do a very good job of that today.
That's not his strength. Look, at foot speed is not going to be. Joey's not going to slide around and be able to.
But what do they do in that situation? Because it's going to come up.
Have them guard somebody different. But here, okay, so I want to say this because I'm not throwing Archie Miller out on the island here. Trace Jackson Davis, for all of the things he's really, really good at, defending on the three-point line is not one of them.
Right.
And he gets driven a lot. That's where he picked up 2 fouls early in the first half. Like, they didn't want him out there guarding him either because they didn't want him to get in foul trouble. In all reality, with that lineup, I don't know how you have to almost defend it the way they did. You just have to tell Brunk, we'll help you. You can't give up those three-pointers. Jalen Smith is too confident. He's too good of a three-point shooter. He's probably their best three-point shooter. I mean, maybe Cowan, but overall for the season, if I had to stand there and give a guy a three-point shot on Maryland's team, Jalen Smith would be the one guy I would say to shoot it because he's their best three-point shooter, I think. So I think Indiana kind of had to pick your poison there on what they were going to have, try to beat them, and I think they tried to say, I don't think Jalen Smith can beat us from the three-point line. He shot 4 for 6 from the three-point line.
Absolutely. You're listening to After the Game with Todd Leary, coming to you live from Yogi's, of course, brought to you by Best Beer Incorporated of Bloomington. Have yourself a nice ice cold Bud Light or Budweiser when you're out and about in Bloomington. Also, Henry Netherly from Remax Realtors, one of our favorite friends. Surprised he's not here today.
And your only other option right now is watching the Pro Bowl, so we know you're tuning into us.
Exactly.
Wants to watch that.
Indiana now goes on the road. We had thought they win today, this team is going to be ranked, of course.
Yeah.
That scenario's out the window. I don't care, but a lot of fans are all bent out of shape about this ranking thing. They're not going to get ranked now because they got to go on the road. And even if they split those games next week, they're going to stay in this perpetual.
You brought this up on our daily show last week. And if they didn't win these 2 games without doing something crazy and winning 2 in a row on the road, they're probably not going to be ranked for the whole rest of the season.
Which is okay, because this is a freaky season where almost every team in the top 25 is someone that's considered to make a deep run in the tournament this year, because you don't know who's going to do what because of the craziness of how this season has gone. Now, Indiana can surprise a lot of people next week with the opportunities on the road. They're going to play Penn State and Ohio State, a team that has not been playing well, Ohio State, but we keep waiting for them to get off the snide.
I mean,
it's got to happen at some point.
Maryland hasn't been playing well either. If Maryland hadn't shot the ball throughout the season the way they did tonight, they would have 2 losses overall. They'd be still ranked in the top 10, and they would be, probably on top of the Big Ten. They have shot the ball so poorly. I'll tell you what, for all our betting fans out there, the safest bet you can possibly make right now is to bet against Maryland in their next game because they won't shoot 30% in the next game.
There's no way. Jared was exhausted after every possession.
Me too.
The last 5 minutes.
Me too.
It was great though. But isn't that what you want almost? Except for you want the other result at the end.
You wanted it to go the other way. Like I'm telling you right now. So this is not making any excuses. Like think about this. I am mentally and physically drained right now, and I didn't play a single second. Think about how those guys are going to be tomorrow. we have a sick feeling in our stomach. Think about how they feel right now.
Here's a stat, though, that, and John says Trace had a great look. The end just didn't go down right. Eric points out, and this is a great, you just can't say anything other, but yeah, that's right. Indiana had a 6-point lead with 1:06 to go at home, and you lose.
Yeah.
And I don't care.
Pretty much the only way to lose a game in that scenario is to miss all your free throws or to have a turnover. And they had a turnover. And the turnover is the killer. The ball was in Jerome Hunter's hands. It never should have been. Indiana could not have been surprised by the press that came out. There was no choice for Maryland to do anything other than press, put pressure on them, and they made a mistake.
And I'm not trying to put anybody in position. I'm not trying to get you to put Coach Miller in a position, but I just keep running through my head. Why in the hell was Jerome Hunter on the floor? There's nothing. I can't think of anything for a reason for him to be on the floor. He doesn't bring anything in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, he's a decent free throw shooter. Not great, but he's decent. If you're going to have a big guy here, and I don't even mind him being on the floor as much as the position he was on the floor. Get him at the other end of the floor and have all your guards up there up front. I mean, at that point, you almost have to, I don't care. I would rather be sitting here saying right now, hey, with 1:06, we took our last time out because we were uncomfortable with the way that things looked. And we had to finish the game with no timeouts left. I'll take my chances with that rather than that turnover. The absolute worst case scenario that could have happened. Indiana turned it over and they hit a 3 5 seconds later. That's the worst case scenario you can possibly come up with.
At the end of the day, my take is this season's going to end up, Indiana's going to the NCAA tournament. I don't think fans have anything to worry about in that regard. We're just going to end up talking about seeding, and because of this Big Ten, I think they're just going to end up with a nice little 6, 7 seed probably. Then when things are all said and done, they're going to lose more games.
You know what's going to happen with the seeding part of it is going to be what team in the Big Ten tournament can go on a little run. And Indiana needs to finish in that top 4 would be great because then you don't play that first 2 days.
And that's not a place that Indiana has done well historically.
Not a place they've done well. But you know what? This team is built around a bunch of new guys. Joey Brunk's never played in the Big Ten tournament. Trace Jackson-Davis has never played in the Big Ten tournament. Armand's never played in the Big Ten tournament. A bunch of guys, it'll be a brand new experience to them, so they don't have that history of not playing well.
Being one of those top 4 teams is very crucial.
It's
because you get that double bye.
Here's the bad part. Here is a bad part. If you're not one of those top 4 teams, which this loss right here could be the reason why they don't end up being that without going on a crazy run. If you're not one of those, you're going to have to win one of your first couple games against a Michigan or an Ohio State or a Northwestern. Probably not Northwestern, but one of those teams, possibly even a Minnesota. That's why Indiana has been in that position so many times, and that's been the tough game for them to win.
And they've got to recapture this game today. They've got to go to Purdue, or they've got to go someplace.
Illinois.
If you can get a win in Illinois, you're getting some done. Right now, I'm telling you.
Illinois is more beatable than you think. And you and I have been saying, you more than me, have been saying all along, Illinois is underrated, okay? And they have some wins on their schedule that are awesome. I mean, that win at Purdue is great. The win at Michigan's great. But they're beatable, okay? They're not invincible at all. So I'm not freaked out at all by that. I can tell you right now, I would not be surprised at all if we go in there and win. Here's what I look at. Here's what I don't keep. I heard him say on the broadcast again today, Indiana has the toughest remaining schedule in all the country, and we don't go to Michigan State, and we don't go to Illinois. How's that possible? How's that possible?
Because the Big Ten is loaded this year.
Crazy.
Rob said if Maryland doesn't hit 12 three-pointers, they don't win. Oh, that's, yeah, of course. IU did lots of good things in the game and had a real good comeback.
Is Andrew watching me? Because he's telling me the Tiger's on. Can he see, like, my visual? I keep watching Tiger hit shots on the screen right here in front of me.
Probably. It's your uncle he's talking about. That's our intern, Jimmy Sutton. It's his uncle.
Oh, is it?
He's talking. Yeah, it's his uncle. It's a family tie here, man.
Like it.
Nick says, to be fair, Hunter did turn it over, but it was a really good play by a top-of-the-court country player. Hunter played his best game. Yeah, he did. I mean, he hit shots. If he doesn't hit those shots, we're not saying that.
Who said that? Nick? Yes.
Nick.
Okay, Nick. 100% correct. I agree. Jerome, we can get that effort out of Jerome, we can get those stats out of Jerome, we'll 100% take it. I'm going to say this, though. It's not a good play, and Jerome will learn from that and not make that mistake again. As long as we learn from it and don't put ourselves in that position again, okay, we'll be fine and we'll live with it. But don't make an excuse and act like, oh, it's okay because it was against a guy who's a really good player. No. I could have taken Bloomington South's high school team and got that ball across half court. That's not a good play no matter what you're going to say about it. But I'm not mad at you, Nick. I appreciate the comment. But Jerome will learn from that and not make that mistake again.
Daniel says, I think Hunter was on the floor for the free throws. You mentioned that. It's a possibility.
I don't mind him being on the floor. I didn't need him. So guard-wise, he was the third guard that was up there. I wanted him to be the 4 or 5 man down at the other end of the court.
Dr. J late to the party. Dr. J's late to the party.
Dr. J's done cleaning teeth today?
Jennifer down in Evansville says, I enjoy Todd's insight on these games. He sees things that I don't even notice.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that.
Very kind
you
of
and I are the only ones who really like my insight.
That's not true at all. We all love hearing this insight. Now Indiana goes on the road to a Penn State team that has played unsurprisingly, but pretty well. And the expectations on this Indiana team now are lessened a little bit, I think, because of this loss. They're going to be licking their wounds, but is this something Penn State should be worried about? Is this when you lose a game like this?
I can tell you right now, Penn State's really good. They got veterans. They're well coached. They got big guys. They got guards. They shoot it well. They're going to be playing at home. Penn State looking at this game, you would think is sitting there going, where we are in the Big Ten, where they are, we'll win this game. That's not how they're looking at it. Everyone in the Big Ten looks at Indiana's roster. I don't just say this as a homer for Indiana. They look at Indiana's roster and they're like, oh, crap. Like, how do we defend that? If they make shots, I don't know how we're going to beat them. They throw the ball inside. Teams that look at, use them as an example. I watch every team in the Big Ten all the time. When Purdue was throwing the ball in the paint to Travion Williams every time down the floor when they played Michigan, and I forget who the game was after that, you're looking at them and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're going to stop them. I don't know how anybody's going to stop them. That's how teams look at Indiana. When they're throwing it into Brunk, when they're throwing it into Trace Jackson-Davis, teams are looking at it going, I don't know how we're going to stop them. If they make outside shots, they're almost unstoppable. We got to just hope we score more points than they do. And no, Penn State's not going to be looking at this. They're not looking at the record. Here's what they're looking at. It's an opportunity to beat one of the blue bloods in the nation, and we're going to try to beat them by 50.
What kind of a shot in the arm is this for Maryland today? They come into a Simon Scott Assembly Hall, a very, very difficult place to play. An Indiana team that shot the hell out of the ball, if you want to be truthful about it. Probably the best shooting game
for 40 minutes.
The best shooting game of the year for them, and they go down after leading and are able to come back and win that game. You got to take your hat off to Maryland because that's a hell of a job to come out of there with a win.
Yeah, it is. I just wanted to look up. I'm not ignoring everyone, but I just wanted to look up what they've got. Okay, so you want to know what they've got? They've got Thursday, they got Iowa coming into their place. So they got Iowa, Rutgers, and at Illinois in their next 3 games. So, yeah, they needed this. They're going to look at this and be like, here's the confidence that this gives them. They went on the road and shot the ball well. If there's one thing you could say that Maryland doesn't do very good, it's shoot the ball. And they should.
They just did today, though.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they have been so inconsistent. You think Indiana's inconsistent shooting. Maryland's terrible.
I know that you can always say this a lot of times about people, but I was watching Maryland prior to the game, and they were looking so comfortable shooting in the Simon Scott Assembly Hall spot. I mean, shot after shot was going down with ease, and I'm like, they're locking in today. And I walked back and talked to Mike Schumann in the press room afterwards and said, I don't know where they're going to shoot the ball well today. And damn, they did. It's just weird. They just looked like they weren't ever they didn't get out of sorts with this crowd, which I was impressed with Maryland in that regard.
Here's a crazy stat. All right, this is a team that really has struggled to shoot the ball. They had 7 different guys make a three-pointer.
Wow.
I mean, give me a break. They probably haven't had 4 guys make a three-pointer, 4 different players make a three-pointer in a game throughout this season.
Wow, there's a stat for you. Bill points out. This was Maryland's first win in Assembly Hall since joining the Big Ten. What is Penn State's weakness? That was Eric asking that.
Shooting. They shot the ball.
Well, that's Maryland's weakness too. Didn't hurt
I thought that's what you said.
No. I was talking about Penn State.
Oh, Penn State.
What's Penn State's weakness?
No.
They don't have any?
No. Depth, maybe? I don't know.
They shoot the ball well.
I mean, they got Curtis Jones coming off the bench scoring 19 for them. I mean,
former Hoosier. That's another thing we forget about. Indiana getting to play against Curtis Jones Jr. For the first time, I think, since he's transferred out.
His first year there.
He went to Oklahoma State, and now he's at Penn State. 18 points off the bench he had in their last win in the second half. A big night for Curtis Jones, and it's going to be weird to see him playing against the Hoosiers.
Look, Penn State has Lamar Stevens is. He probably won't win Big Ten Player of the Year, but I'm going to tell you this. All the coaches across the conference would tell you they would love to have a Lamar Stevens on their team. He's a veteran guy. He's been there forever. He's one of those people. He's like he's like a Charles Barkley, where he plays way bigger than his size. I mean, how tall do you think he is? They probably list him at 6'5", 6'7", something like that. He's probably 6'3". And you look at him lined up against other guys, but he always comes up with the big rebound. He plays in the post. He'll guard Joey Brunk or Trace Jackson Davis. He'll step out and guard Justin Smith or Rob Hennessy. He can guard anyone. He can make threes. He can take it and back you in, make shots. Then they bring in a guy off the bench, Mike Watkins. Leads him in rebounding. Guy looks like he's 47 years old. I don't know how in the world he doesn't start for him. He's huge and gigantic. He blocks shots. Everything about the guy is really good. He doesn't start. That tells you how deep they are. But they don't have a weakness. Penn State does not have a weakness. They've got good guards. They shoot the ball pretty well.
Daniel thinks that they look a lot like Indiana.
They do. They definitely do. I totally agree with that. I mean, Indiana has a double threat inside. That's one thing that Indiana has right now. This Indiana team has that not very many teams can say. Even Illinois can't really say they've got a double threat of guys you can just dump it in the post to and they can score a basket. And Penn State, look, they're gonna spread it out. They got cocky guards that'll stand out there and lull you to sleep and knock a three down on you. They'll drive it in the lane. They'll dish it to Mike Watkins. They'll dish it back out for a three. They don't have a weakness. They're really good. Now, I'm not saying they're unbeatable. I'm just saying our players. Okay, so right now, I wouldn't trade Trace Jackson Davis for anyone on their team. So I'll take us there. Rob Hennessy is as good as any guard they have. Justin Smith, they don't have a player like Justin Smith with his athletic ability. I mean, he's probably the guy here tonight that struggled a little bit. He shot 3 for 10 in the game today. But Justin, I liked Justin's game today. He didn't try to force things. He shot 1 3-pointer, which he was wide open and had to shoot it. But he shot 3 for 10, and I know 2 of those 10 shots, or 7 shots that he missed were wide open layups. He just blew them. So look, they don't have a guy for Justin Smith. Like overall, what's Indiana's weakness? They don't shoot the ball very well.
Yep.
So if they do, what's their weakness? If they do shoot the ball well, what's their weakness? You can't come up with one.
No,
they turn it over at bad times.
Yeah.
They have too many turnovers. They give up easy shots. And every team's going to be able to say that. Otherwise, Penn State would be undefeated right now if they were as good as I'm saying they are. But they've got solid players that make plays.
When are we back? When's Indiana on the road?
Wednesday.
Gee whiz. So that means we'll be back here, of course, after the game Wednesday night. What time tip is that game?
That would be
make it a 7 o'clock one, please.
8:30 Eastern.
Back at 10:30 next week Eastern live after
they like
the game.
putting Indiana in that second Fox Sports game. No, it's a Big Ten Network game. They like putting Indiana in that second game.
So we'll be back next Wednesday live after the game, or after the game. We'll be back next Wednesday here at Yogi's as Indiana travels to Happy Valley to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions in another game. It's going to be a tough game, but I'm not going to be shocked if Indiana comes out of there with a win. I'm just not.
If Indiana wins both, look, how do I say this again? Like, I feel better. Laz in the house. I feel better about Indiana after this game as any loss I can ever remember. And I mean, since I've been a fan finished playing, I feel better about the Indiana Hoosiers after this loss than any loss I can remember. And I usually don't feel good about anything in a loss.
I hear you, and I understand why.
I'm not no different than Indiana fans. No Indiana fans do. We all hate it. we were trained to hate it.
Absolutely. Also back Monday morning, of course, after Indiana Sports Beat with 2B shows.
I'll have time to watch this game, though. By then, I'll have a really good nugget.
Oh, we'll be going. Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary returns Monday morning, of course, 9 a.m. live. You can catch us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, all those places where you find a podcast. If you're in Southern Indiana, there's several radio stations, Evansville, The Rep, and Marengo, WPRO as well. You can find us at any time, any place you find a podcast. So also at IndianaSportsBeat.com. So you can catch us there. But looking forward to be back at it on Monday morning. We got a lot going on next week, 2 road games, and just the season continues. And watching these other teams, big help for Maryland as they had taken a little hit. Back up the standings they'll go. This is going to be a merry-go-round for these teams.
Back and forth all year long. And New York City teams jump up. The ones that haven't, Michigan and Ohio State, they're the ones team
that have sucked.
They really have. They're the only ones in the league, I think, right now you would say have played under their ability.
And Illinois over the top, man.
Rutgers, Illinois, probably Penn State. I mean, they're kind of right there. I think
you got to keep them in there right now. I mean, I think you have to. Michigan State, Rutgers, Penn State. Is that not got to be the top 3 right now?
Illinois, yeah. Illinois, Michigan State, and
Penn State, Rutgers.
And then where do you go? I mean, a lot of people are going to say Maryland after this win. This is a steal win. We talk about it all the time. What team's going to go on the road and do something crazy and get that win?
It puts them a notch ahead of Indiana.
This is a steal win.
Because they got that tough.
Well, they swept Indiana, too. I mean, they beat us there like a drum, and they steal this one here. So,
and that's going to be a nice little notch on their resume at the end of the season.
Yeah, it is.
But we can't thank everybody enough for joining us. We appreciate it. Tim shows up late. Rich Morris, my man, brother. We should join us late, but we appreciate it. Everybody, thanks a lot, first of all, to the Finney Hospitality Group, as always, for hosting us here at Yogi's after the game. Nathan Finney, Chris Martin, of course, always doing wonderful, and everybody here does a great job. Best Beer Incorporated of Bloomington as well. Have yourself a nice ice cold Bud Light or Budweiser, wherever you're out and about. But that's going to pretty much wrap it up, man. Another tough game for the Hoosiers. But we'll be back at it on Wednesday. We're going to see if they can get a win.
Yep, I'm super sad about Kobe. Kind of puts things in perspective today. You know, I wanted to sit here and feel really sorry for ourselves, and then that kind of brings everything right back to normal.
Thoughts and prayers out to the family of Kobe Bryant.
So
just horrible news, but we'll leave that to the national media to flesh out because they'll be there. But thanks a lot again to everybody. We appreciate you joining us, and until Monday morning, I will see you on the radio.